John Smith and I have been in love for 10 years. Everyone knows he loves me like his life. I am his only red rose. Until that day. I stood outside the cake shop. Through the sparkling clean glass, I saw him wrapping his arms around another girl, squeezing a pastry bag with a bright smile. That day was supposed to be our 10th anniversary. Without any mishaps, we would soon walk hand in hand into the marriage chapel. John thought I couldn't survive without him. But he was wrong. From the start. I never intended to be just his rose alone. The glass felt like it was carved from ice, its chill piercing straight to my heart. I felt my breath stop for a few seconds, my head burning hot. I was frozen in place, unable to move. My heart was like a lemon thrown onto the street and stomped to pieces. Unbearably sour and bitterly hard to describe. The girl in the pale yellow dress leaned into John's embrace. The two of them intimate and close. Like a couple in love. Maybe I should have stormed in, smeared cream on their faces, and hysterically demanded why he was here, hugging this pretty girl, instead of sitting in the conference room where he belonged. Maybe I should have calmed down and spoken to John calmly, listening for an explanation or a confession. But I did nothing. I just stood quietly for a few minutes or maybe 10. I watched John hold the girl's arm to steady her as she squeezed the cream, preventing her hand from shaking. I watched the girl playfully turn around, quickly dab cream on John's cheek, and flash a sweet smile. For the first time, I resented my once proud excellent eyesight, and I stupidly drifted into distraction, wondering why the shop designed a glass wall that exposed customers' privacy completely. Finally, I picked up my bag that had fallen by my feet and turned to leave. I guess my retreat must have looked pathetic. My steps unsteady, frantic and hurried. Only after sitting back in the car did it dawn on me that the back of my shirt was soaked with sweat. I'll go back and take a shower, I thought to myself. John and I were the campus couple everyone envied. John was a year older than me, in our second year of high school. After taking a year off due to a sports injury, he transferred to my class. By fate's arrangement, he became my desk mate, spending days together. Accidental touches easily sparked romantic feelings. Just locking eyes was enough to flush our young faces red hot. But we both held our ground, neither crossing that line, gritting our teeth, not daring to reveal a hint of affection, even when others could smoothly joke about us. He and I never admitted we were together. This tension lasted until before the college entrance exam, when the bell for the last class rang. Classmates with teary eyes said their goodbyes, hugging our strict yet kind homeroom teacher one final time. John nudged my shoulder. "Hey, Jane. I have something for you." What he handed over was a handwritten math problem collection. He excelled in math, a genius teachers raved about, who never bothered compiling his mistakes. I guessed. "I think I'll be on the test," he said, turning his head away awkwardly. "Do you trust me?" I smiled, took the notebook, and tucked it into my bag. Then gently, as if afraid of burning him, I tapped his arm. "John, see you on the 9th. John's earlobes flushed red, his voice muffled. "Let's meet on the 8th instead. We can review English together. See you on the 8th. "John, what day is the 8th? Do you remember?" "John." I answered the phone, my hair still dripping wet. "I know, Jane. But something urgent came up at work. You know how important this project is right now." John's voice was gentle with a hint of softness. "Wait for me to make it up to you." Okay. If it hadn't been for that scene at the cake shop, I might have truly believed him. He loves his career. Over the years we've been together, him neglecting me for work has happened before. But I chose to understand. The company was something John and I built together. Back then, fresh out of college, to land clients, he and I pulled all-nighters for days, drank until we got stomach bleeds. No one knows better than me how much he values the company's growth. How could a man like that spend work hours making a cake with a girl? For the first time, I felt that John was so unfamiliar. I dried my hair with a towel. On that shelf hung John's towel. The two hooks were very close together. John said that couple towels should be placed together. I threw the one in my hand into the washing machine. If a towel is dirty, you can just wash it. But what about love? Can love that has been dirtied still be kept? Jane. Happy anniversary. John pushed the door open. His voice filled with joy and excitement. This is from that bakery you love the most. Sorry I'm late. I sat on the chair, looking at the cake he placed on the dining table. It was the shop's classic strawberry chocolate cake. The hand-painted rose pattern was lifelike. On the day John formally confessed to me, he also held a bouquet of roses and asked, "Would you be my rose?" I actually sighed in relief. Fortunately, he just brought back a ready-made cake. If he had brought back a crooked DIY cake, I probably would have gone crazy. Seeing that I hadn't reacted for a long time, John walked to my side, squatted down, and pinched my earlobe. Jane. I know I was wrong. Please forgive me this time. I really couldn't get away. His eyes were bright, full of sincerity, just like many times before. He always used this self-sacrificing, humble attitude to seek my forgiveness. Were all those previous times also lies that weren't exposed? My heart felt numb and swollen. My nose was sour, and my throat was choked up. I tilted my head away, avoiding his hand. John's expression stiffened for a moment. Jane, don't be unreasonable. You weren't this unreasonable before. His voice suddenly turned cold, as if trying to threaten me into backing down. I've already had dinner. I can't eat cake. I looked at the clock on the wall, the hands pointing to 11. This is our 10th anniversary. But there's less than an hour left. Jane. I want to go back to the company. I interrupted him, just stating my thoughts. As I said, the company is John's and my company. It was born from John's sleepless nights and my heart and soul. When the team was first starting and couldn't find partners, it was me who made phone calls one by one, looking at business cards. By the time I had contacted everyone possible, the corners of my mouth were already cracked. But recently, because of preparing for the wedding, I withdrew from work. John's mother once held my hand and said, "Jane, after getting married, you won't have to work so hard. Quickly have a child. Then just stay home playing with the kids, and leave earning money and supporting the family to John." I shook my head and refused. I wouldn't imprison myself for a child, especially since, in my heart, the company is also my child. So why should I leave my labor of love for so-called love now? I'm going back to the company. This time, it was a calm notification to John. John suddenly stood up. Why? Jane. Facing my scrutinizing gaze, he hurriedly added, "Our wedding isn't even prepared yet. I don't want to pause work for the wedding." I was a bit tired, rubbing the bridge of my nose. You know, this is just notifying you. You have no right to stop me from going back. John seemed angry, pacing back and forth. But that's our wedding. The wedding we've waited 10 years for. Didn't you say you had to personally oversee it to feel at ease? Jane, do you want to betray our love? This accusation came out of nowhere, without warning. I was even stunned for a moment, almost thinking I was the one who betrayed the relationship. John. I stood up, sidestepped him, and entered the guest room. I love that bakery. We were on the same wavelength. Originally, I was going to bring back a cake too. How could John not understand what I was saying? But he was frozen in place, and by the time he reacted, I had already locked the room. Jane, listen to my explanation. It's just. John finally fell silent. He didn't know how much I had seen or if I already knew everything. I lay on the guest room bed. This bedding set was still the one John and I went to choose together. That day, we almost impulsively got married on the spot. But in the end, John said he wanted to give me a grand wedding first. Good thing. Otherwise, divorce would be more troublesome than breaking up. The ceiling was empty. The light was a bit too bright. Yet I stared at it for a long time. Every corner here holds our shared memories. Once sweet, now unbearable. Because I didn't know that from that moment on. The sweetness behind it had already rotted and spoiled. A bad apple. After eating half, I discovered the other side was already rotten through. This made me feel nauseous. I thought I would have insomnia. But I didn't. I had been tense since the afternoon. Yet after speaking out, I felt as if a burden had lifted. The arrow knocked on the bow had been released, shattering all the beautiful illusions. I slept deeply, the sweetest rest since preparing for the wedding. When I opened the door, John was standing right there. He had 2 dark circles under his eyes bloodshot, startling me. "Jane, let's talk. It's not what you think. You can't just abandon me like this." Nothing happened between us. No improper relationship at all. I just saw she was alone and celebrated her birthday. Not what I thought. But the hand on her waist was real. And the smile on her face wasn't fake. I was only stating the facts I witnessed. Was that girl truly so friendless that she needed a man with no relationship whatsoever to keep her company for her birthday? I was so angry I almost laughed. I tilted my head. "If you're trying to explain, I don't want to hear it. If it's to discuss dividing belongings in detail, after I find a place and move out, I'll prepare a document for you to review. John, you know, it's not that I abandoned you." I sighed. "It's that you abandoned our 10 years. That seemed to strike a nerve in John. He suddenly flared up, his face flushing red. "Yes. 10 years. How can you casually talk about splitting up? From 18 to 28. I've been by your side the whole time. You're 28 now. Jane, can you afford to waste time?" I froze. And he froze too. I felt my heart clench violently. So, in his eyes, I'd become damaged goods. "No, Jane. I didn't mean it like that." John panicked, trying to grab my arm. I coldly pushed his hand away. "First, if I don't say we're splitting up, should I pretend not to care and happily forgive you? Do you think forgiving once is enough? Every time I see you after this, every time I hear your voice, I'll recall this incident, and I'll have to choose to swallow it down again and again. To forgive. That disgusts me. John, you know my nature. I don't like to compromise myself. Second, yes, I'm 28. What? Are you dying at 29? At 28. I'm still young. I have plenty of time. But you did make me realize that spending time on men isn't worth it. It's better to invest in my own career. Third, I looked up, catching the panic and confusion in John's eyes, and spoke slowly. "I don't deny these 10 years were happy. But it ends here. John, please don't tarnish my memories anymore." John gasped heavily, holding back his emotions. I stood silently, waiting for him to calm down. Finally, John just said in a low voice, "You don't need to move out. I'll go. It's not safe for a girl alone." I nodded in agreement. My heart was calm. Right. But my eyes grew hot. And scalding tears slid down. "John, from now on, I am no longer your Rose." What I didn't expect was seeing that girl again so soon. The girl named Mary had her hair in a high ponytail, a pretty face with flawless makeup, radiating youth, according to the manager. She was a new hire during my vacation. Not a high position, just a small assistant. John's assistant. If it weren't for me, this would probably be a cliché yet perfect. The CEO falls in love with me. It's a bit insane. I've been on vacation for less than 3 months. And they're practically staging a drama. So 10 years of companionship couldn't compete with the fresh thrill of just 3 months. Jane. Mary didn't leave with the manager and the other newcomers who joined at the same time, but sat right down at my desk. I couldn't help frowning. But I waited patiently for her to speak. John and I aren't in the kind of relationship you think. I just graduated college. No work experience. John took me under his wing, teaching me step by step how to do the job well. I'm clumsy, always messing up. But John patiently corrects my mistakes. To me, he's like an older brother. That day was my birthday. I'm alone working in this unfamiliar city. John celebrated it as a brother. Jane, women shouldn't be too petty, or you'll age quickly, Mary said, seemingly unintentionally examining my face. Was this an explanation or a show of force? I smiled as I listened to her describe the little details of her interactions with John. My heart did ache with a sour, swollen pain, but more than that, I found it amusing. Wild animals mark their territory with their scent. Mary wanted to prove to me that John already bore her mark. Her eyes and brows carried a mocking expression, as if she were the triumphant winner in a competition. But from the very beginning, I never intended to compete with her. I had no plans to fight her for anything. Ever since I saw that scene at the cake shop, I had decided I didn't want John anymore. A cake that falls on the floor isn't still edible just because you pick it up within 3 seconds. It seems John's leadership skills aren't up to par. He still hasn't taught you properly. I tapped the table. I'm your superior. Don't you have any workplace etiquette or sense of boundaries? Anne. Mary. The first paused, meeting her scrutinizing gaze with a confident smile. You should call me Jane. Mary's expression changed several times, her eyes flickering, but she couldn't utter a word in rebuttal. Fortunately, her savior arrived just in time. Bang! John almost burst into my office, and I almost thought the glass door would shatter. Before he could catch his breath, he looked at me and his first words were, Jane, don't make things hard for her. She's young and inexperienced. John. This man who was nominally my fiancé. This man who was begging for my forgiveness just yesterday. His gaze at me was icy, blaming me for making things difficult for his assistant, Mary. Although soon after, he regained his composure, and his tone softened considerably. Our matter is between us. Don't take it out on innocent people. She hasn't been tainted by the vat of society yet. Can't you show some understanding? How pathetic. 10 years of knowing each other and being together. Yet he didn't know what kind of person I was. Still thinking I would trouble a rival in love for his sake. I didn't intend to explain anything. He had already decided I was the villainous bad guy. And further explanation would be futile. I just said, 22 is not that young anymore. When I was 22, I could already secure a project on my own. Mary grabbed John's arm. Her big eyes filled with grievance as she looked at him. John. I'm just stupid. John didn't let her finish before pulling his hand away. I guessed he recalled the hardships we endured starting our business together, which was probably the so-called wave of nostalgia. Regrettably, I just wanted to tell Mary simply, at your age, I did much better than you. Now that I'm several years older, my achievements are beyond your reach. From the very beginning, I wasn't a rose needing John's care, nor an animal guarding its territory unwilling to leave. I am a hunter with a gun. I possess the entire forest. Finally, John took Mary and left my office. The office suddenly became quiet, with only that glass door holding everything up. This farce made me realize one thing: I didn't want to work with John anymore. It wasn't out of fear of memories, nor because exes see red when they meet. I just thought it was quite meaningless. On the path of love, he was easily blinded. On the journey of career, he also practiced favoritism. He was neither a good partner nor an excellent business associate. Office gossip spread quickly, and by the time I summoned a few old subordinates to the office, the incident had already turned into a battlefield of the wife and the mistress through word of mouth. Jane. That Mary is shameless. She actually said, since you're not married, you can't be considered the original wife. Lily said, scrunching up her small face. In my opinion, Dumping the scumbag was an absolutely right decision. Let's start anew together. Lily was someone I had mentored from scratch, so it was natural for her to speak up for me. Among the remaining people, some were willing to leave with me like Lily, while others were still hesitant. I spoke. Indeed. If you come with me, it means everything you've done at Jufeng will be reset to zero. I can contact headhunters to take us all, but the future is uncertain. Staying at Jufeng, the path will be smoother. A short-haired, efficient girl pushed up her glasses. Her name was Emily. A child who came from the mountains. I originally thought she wouldn't easily give up the achievements she had worked hard for. But she looked at me with a determined gaze. Jane, I believe in you. I'm not afraid to start over. With you, I feel at ease. I smiled. With them, I also felt at ease. I was leaving, and taking a few core employees with me. John wouldn't have let go easily, but probably feeling genuinely indebted to me. He didn't try to retain these employees. It once again confirmed my thought. John was indeed confused, since I already had the idea. Achieving results wasn't hard. In less than 3 months, my team and I had made small achievements at another company. After sending the list of item divisions to John, the first also moved to a new address. Everything was a fresh start. Continuing on the wrong path only leads to greater failure. It's better to stop immediately, turn around, and cut losses in time. As the ancient verse says, turn my chariot back to the path, before I stray too far. But I didn't expect Mary to come find me. It was the weekend, and Mary stood at my front door, knocking continuously with loud bangs that drew the neighbor out to shout at her to stop. I hurriedly opened the door and saw her looking displeased, a dark cloud shadowing her brow. Her expression weary. Jane, you really have a clever scheme as long as you can't have it. You'll keep stirring things up. You just want John to never forget you. Right. I didn't let her in, secretly pressing the bell to call property management. I don't think that way. John isn't worth me using any schemes. Your relationship is your business. And I truly no longer need John. I paused, unsure how much of this Mary would take in, then added, how did you find out where I live? The uninvited guest on a weekend morning left me feeling disgusted. John has filled his desk with your messages. Mary glared at me, her eyes misty with tears. And in that moment, I felt like the third party in their affair. If you're leaving, leave cleanly. Stop coveting my John. Her emotions surged, eyes reddening, scaring me into shutting the door. Luckily, property management arrived just then and escorted her away. For the first time, I pitied Mary for losing control over a man. And I despised John for shattering one woman's heart while pretending affection to hurt another. He was the hidden instigator of this conflict between women. Property management repeatedly promised not to allow strangers into the community or to my doorstep, which eased my mind a little. Mary's description of John's desk was like a creepy stalker's obsession. I'd rarely seen John so distraught, lamenting that I'd never truly seen him clearly while privately feeling relieved I left in time. The phone rang. It was John. After a moment's thought, I answered. Jane, I'm sorry. I don't know how Mary found you. Can we talk? When I arrived at the coffee shop, John was already seated. Head clearly groomed, himself shaved. Hair gelled but couldn't hide his weariness. The company had lost several key employees. A real setback. Sitting across from John, seeing his disheveled state, I couldn't quite describe my feelings. Some satisfaction, some bitterness, some regret. Just a little longer, and we could have gone from school uniforms to wedding dresses, capping off our campus romance perfectly. But he got distracted by other scenery along the way, veered off course, and we became strangers. I thought about coming to you many times, but I feared you wouldn't see me. I know I was wrong, but I swear, Mary and I never betrayed you. John's hands tightened repeatedly on the table. A nervous habit. When had the one I loved started focusing on others? When he met Mary and did things only couples do? Did he ever think of me or feel guilt? I didn't care anymore. The heartache was just from forcing out 10 years of John woven into my life. It was hard but necessary. Jane. I miss you, John said, eyes welling up. I regretted it from the day you left. Have I lost you forever? We watched so many sunrises and sunsets. You promised to be with me for life. I still crave your homemade bone broth noodles. Jane. Can't you forgive me once? I can't bear this. John broke down, his tall frame slumping onto the table. I swirled my coffee cup and sighed deeply. That night I made bone broth noodles. But you came back late. And they were cold. The cold noodles cleared my head. I dumped the pot, tossing out the past decade. John jerked his head up, eyes red, looking every bit the devoted lover. I'm sorry, Jane. Seeing Mary reminded me of how you used to be. So, we hadn't dated in ages. She's young and passionate, making me feel like I was reliving the past. I nearly gagged in disgust. What twisted logic. He cheated emotionally yet blamed me for changing and cast himself as the loyal one from the start. It was utterly ridiculous. Live well, I said, rising to leave, my voice icy. John grabbed my wrist, his grip painful. It hurts. John. Let go. I shook him off fiercely. He stumbled, hit the table, and released me in pain. Jane. Really? Can't we go back? John asked. My response was an unhesitating turn away. After that, I didn't pay attention to John's news for a long time, although my team had a foundation. Changing locations meant there was still a lot to do. By the time we finally established ourselves, nearly half a year had passed. Fortunately, our efforts weren't in vain, as we unexpectedly received an invitation to the Chen Group's gala. The event gathered many industry leaders. While I didn't expect any major opportunities, attending to network was worthwhile. Lily handed me my purse, puffing out her cheeks. Jane. You're playing favorites. Why take Emily instead of me? I patted Lily and said, you're too lively. As your teacher, I can't handle you. Lily laughed. She disliked such overly calculated social scenes anyway. But as a young woman, she loved to fuss and make a scene. Emily stood behind me, adjusting her glasses. Brat. It was a case of silence speaking volumes. Seeing Lily's puffed up anger made me chuckle uncontrollably. Before getting out of the car at the venue, I teased Emily. But the cheerful, light mood froze the moment I saw John and Mary. Mary wore a custom-fitted gown, her belly slightly rounded, holding John's arm as she curiously scanned the surroundings. She had covered in less than a year the distance I hadn't finished in a decade. Yet I didn't feel a shred of envy. John kept claiming he couldn't let go, but his actions were honest. John noticed me first, seeing me at the gala. He showed a flash of surprise before settling into understanding. No one knew better than him how hard I'd worked in my career. So my presence here was no shock. Then he instinctively tried to shield Mary, like a child who broke a vase, trying to hide the mess, to bury his head in the sand. His eyes held other emotions I didn't care to read. Seriously, I had no business analyzing another woman's husband's gaze. John stood still, and Mary quickly followed his stare to me. She pulled John toward the other side. But after a few steps, she released his arm and marched straight at me. John tried to grab her but failed. Mary never disappointed me. Her usually gentle voice now turned sharp and caustic, loud enough to draw glances. Jane, why won't you give up? John is my husband now. Are you trying to be the other woman? With that one sentence, she summed up our messy, tangled relationship. I was certain John regretted not holding her back. I stayed silent, and Emily spoke for me. Mary, this is the Chen Group's gala. You shouldn't. Who do you think you are? Lecturing me. Which executive did you climb on to crash this party? John hurried over to pull Mary away. Mary! Shut up! Mary glared at me with a smug expression. I knew she relished the chance to mock me. The defeated woman. While belittling my career. But she truly had no sense. Aside from how inappropriate her behavior was. She spilled John's affair for all to see. Making them a joke, and every word she said insulted herself and John. While competence matters in business. People who aren't loyal in love deserve scrutiny before you partner with them. People are always lenient with themselves but demand high standards from others. Moreover, her later remark was outrageous, implying women only attend events by clinging to others, which changed how many female elites present viewed her and John. Mary thought she humiliated me. But she only splashed mud on herself. Ironically boosting my profile. She didn't reappear for the rest of the gala. And instead, many approached me to affirm my achievements. After a night of socializing, I checked my phone to find it flooded with texts from John. They were all apologies. Even blaming Mary and saying she couldn't compare to me. How disgusting. John, why can't you stay faithful? No matter who you're with. I blocked his new number too. Thankfully, Mary pulled me back from the brink before I fell deeper. Otherwise, it would have been a beautiful flower stuck in manure. I realized belatedly that now. When I think of John, the first no longer feel the old heartache. When things are going your way, a little push can launch you. The industry connections from that gala brought new resources to me and my team, lifting us to heights we'd never imagined. I thought, if lucky stars exist, Mary might be mine, clearing out villains and paving new paths. But my lucky star didn't see it that way. Once again, Mary showed up to confront me outside my office. She looked terrible. As if aged 10 years. From her curses, I pieced together their lives. Mary had given birth to a son. But soon after, Mrs. Smith, who had always been kind, turned into a hostile mother-in-law, constantly making things hard for her. John's career had stalled, even regressing. And he blamed Mary for ruining his image. John was so nostalgic for his ex-girlfriend and yet so disgusted with her that he wanted to divorce her to seek a chance to reconcile with me. I just had security escort her away and said to her, Mary, please don't come looking for me anymore. Okay. Rest assured. In this world, only you wouldn't mind a man who pretends to be deep but is actually rotten to the core. I have more important things to do. Why do you think my mind is only filled with men? Indulging in romance. Wake up. Is your head only filled with love and affection? Don't you think such a life is too narrow? Mary stopped shouting, but still glared at me resentfully. Her venomous gaze as if it could turn into a sharp knife to pierce through me. Some people are really strange. They have infinite possibilities. Yet they confine themselves to one path. Binding themselves with so-called love. As if the only meaning of their lives is to find true love. And losing love is like losing life. Mary is like this. And John is too. Once I thought John was full of ideals and ambitions like me, dreaming of walking hand in hand toward success in the future. But he chose betrayal for desire, yielded out of guilt, and blamed others due to regret. I thought we were companions walking side by side. Yet he silently took a completely opposite path. I had just gotten off the plane when I received a call from Mrs. Smith. After finally securing a big project I'd been negotiating for a long time, I didn't have time to celebrate before Mrs. Smith's moral blackmail ruined my good mood. Jane. John was in a car accident. Come see him quickly. They say a day as husband and wife brings 100 days of kindness. You two spent 10 years together. What man doesn't make mistakes? John has already divorced that woman. If you get married now, I won't pressure you to have more children. One child is enough. Can't you just go back to how things were before? Of course not. For the first time, I realized Mrs. Smith was such an absurd person. Suppressing the urge to curse, I replied, Auntie, John and I broke up long ago. What happens to him has nothing to do with me. I don't want to meddle in your family's private affairs. Please stop focusing your energy on me. Jane. That's not how you should talk. John divorced for you. You can't be so irresponsible as a person. Such a huge blame was dumped on me. And I was utterly speechless. If John has done anything wrong, of course I can forgive him. You're right, what man doesn't make mistakes? Mr. Smith was also blinded and didn't appreciate you back then. I'll go register my marriage with John whenever you reconcile with Mr. Smith. John's father had been an alcoholic who cheated and beat his wife. And Mrs. Smith never forgave him as generously as she claimed. But before they could divorce, Mr. Smith died in a drunk driving accident. For me to forgive John and take care of him, go to hell. Before Mrs. Smith's curses could come through, I hung up first, blocked her number, and carefully checked to ensure no one else could whitewash John in my ear before finally breathing a sigh of relief. Jane. Emily handed me a coat. And through her glasses, I saw her smiling eyes. You're becoming more and more like Lily. I was taken aback. I used to be steady and meticulous, even a bit too rigid, while Lily was lively and free-spirited. But truly, since leaving John, I've let myself go more, saying what I want and doing what I please. Lily heard her name and popped her head out from behind. What? Did I hear someone calling me? Is Jane treating this hero to a big meal? I want a grand banquet feast. I looked at them and laughed. Okay. Let's eat. Eat your fill. Heroes. I put an arm around each girl's shoulder and strode forward. I remembered what John had said before. He said, Jane, you've changed. Back when I was with John during the tough early days of starting a business, I was always tense. That tension became a habit. And I forgot that the original me was just as proud and unrestrained as these young girls. I changed for a better life. Yet he blamed me for not giving him the passion and excitement like before. But if he had been a decent partner, providing emotional support and letting me relax like Lily and Emily do, why would I have been constantly on edge? In the end, John was truly useless. He wanted everything but couldn't even uphold the most basic moral standards. I really, truly, was blind back then. Hey, Jane. Now that you've left that scumbag and are single again, want me to introduce you to some handsome guys? Lily's hand-picked selection. No. Let me shine alone. I patted the little one's head lightly. Monty, only slow down my climb to the top. I was never a rose confined to a pot. I am the wildflower meant to bloom across the entire mountain. Above, the sky stretched clear and blue with drifting white clouds. Looking out, the winter snow had blanketed the surrounding scenery in a thick white quilt. And spring, lying dormant in the cold, waited for the next season of blossoms. I am no one's rose. I am the whole spring.